Hi, good afternoon, everybody. I think Vishal gave a very great, good insight into the efficiency that can be improved by the use of carbon footprints. I'm approaching the issue of sustainability in the apparel manufacturing slightly differently than talking about carbon footprints, etc. I'm basically talking about how the garments can move towards a sustainable viability in India itself. There have been reasons of choosing it to say things on this topic and this perspective. There have been numerous dialogues that we keep doing with various promoters and with various industry stakeholders. And there is, I think, not a very good promise that we come across through most of the people in terms of how the industry is going to be viable in times to come. And I think one of the key and important things here is that there is a level of insecurity, there is a level of, a very short approach. People see a year, people see 2 years. A lot of people today in the garment manufacturing business who've been in the trade for such a long time have actually start getting insecure about the future of the industry itself. And what I'm trying to run through in the brief, in a crisp 10-12 slide presentation, is that, are those fears or is that insecurity real? Or do we actually have a viable solution, or do we have a viable clause to the apparel manufacturing scenario in India? To set the perspective right and to keep it in, move it in the right perspective, I have structured the presentation in the following way. I'm talking about what the global trade and apparel trade scenario has been, what has been the India story on the apparel manufacturing trade, what is the SWOT of India as an apparel destination, what are the success factors for sustaining the apparel business, what are the challenges that are faced by India, and what is the way ahead. And in between, talks of what kind of tools and management tools and techniques that can be used to ensure that we come out of some of those challenges that are being faced in India today. Now, if you look at the global textile apparel trade scenario, just to put the perspective right for the set of people who are here, the global apparel textile and trade is a total about 510 billion US dollar trade in 2009, which is expected to grow to about 1,000 billion US dollar trade by 2020. Now, if you look at the top traded categories, trousers, sweaters, shirts, blouses, dresses in the sequence have been the top traded categories in the world global apparel trade. If you look at the category-wise breakup, apparel has been the largest, which is close to about 60% of the global textile and apparel trade. Fabric about 15%, yarn about 7%, fiber 5%, and other textiles 13%, which includes carpet, accessories, etc. EU imports close to about 27% of the global trade, US about 12%, Japan 5%, Russia 4%, and so on and so forth. Now, if you look at the share of the global apparel trade between the countries, China at 2009 stands at 26.6%, 26.8%, Hong Kong 5.8%, and so forth. India is at 3%. Now, what's interesting to note here is that China, when we have presented this earlier in 2006, 2007, was always at a higher than 30% point in terms of the share in global trade. It was close to about 33% in 2006, 2007. In 2009, the share came down to 26.8%. So who's gained? Some of the gains have happened dramatically and drastically in countries like Vietnam and Bangladesh. Bangladesh has grown almost double in the last 4-5 years, and so has Vietnam. India has grown. India was used to be around 2.4, 2.5%, is today at about 3% or slightly more than 3%. So there is some bit which is added into India as well. If you look at the India story, some of the figures in 2009, the textile and apparel trade in India in 2009 was about 23.5 US dollar billion trade, out of which 10.7 was apparel and about 12.8 was textiles. Now, this is slated to grow and with a very estimated CAGR of 11% to about 80 US billion dollars by 2020. Now, people could say it may not be 80, it could be 70, or it could be 65. At one point of time, Ministry of Textile had put in a figure about more than 50. But we feel that the kind of opportunity which is available today, it has the potential of going up to $80 billion by 2020. If you look at the India story, the largest trade has been cotton fiber, blouses, t-shirts, trousers, dresses, woven shirts, shawls, etc. In terms of category-wise export breakup, apparel has been 46%, fabric about 16%, yarn about 12%, fiber at 11%, and so on and so forth. In terms of category-wise, the largest export goes into US, which is 20%, then UK at 8%, Germany at 8%, UAE at 7%, France at 4%, and then the rest of the world. To add to the India story, it's not just the exports, it's the domestic market, which is a fairly large domestic market. And if you look at the size of the domestic market in 2009 and compare it to the exports, it's actually double. In 2009, while the exports were at $23 billion, the domestic market size was at $47 billion. And if you put in a 11% CAGR by 2020, while the exports would grow to about $80 billion, the domestic market would grow to about $140 billion, leading the total TNA industry of India to about 1,032 US billion dollar. About $220 billion. I'm sorry. And if you look at the between the knits and wovens exports, even while there was recession in the global industry or global scenario, India did keep increasing the trade. So there is a lot of inherent capability of the Indian entrepreneur to fight the odds, to a fairly large extent. So some of the facts and inferences out of this: India's textile apparel industry, domestic and exports, expected to grow to about 70 billion, level to $220 billion by 2020. Projected growth of about 8% year on year, likely to widen as the middle class base, disposable incomes, and therefore improve domestic consumption at a far faster pace. Domestic TNA market in 2009 was 47 billion, which can possibly reach about 140 billion by 2020. The main drivers of domestic growth are increasing population, increasing economic income levels, rapid urbanization, improving demographics, increased organized players, increasing penetration, and retailers into smaller cities. Now, if you look at what India is today in terms of the SWOT, if we look at it as a garment manufacturing destination, abundant supply of raw material, all of us know that, third largest cotton producer in the world. Large diversified segments that cater to wide product basket, still considered very high in the retailer's mind on high fashion sourcing, destination to the world. In terms of key weaknesses, highly fragmented with very little integration. The scale is still a very, very big issue. We were just talking during lunch with somebody outside, and if you were to actually take out the top 10 and limit a size considering a top 10, I think the count would end at about 7, 8. We don't even find people who are at a scale enough that can probably reach or meet the opportunity which is available. There are labor laws which are issues, and plus what's also happened in India is that there are so many other options of business available today to the promoter that he finds some of those options far more lucrative than continuing to be in a high sweaty business of textile or apparel manufacturing. In terms of opportunities, well, there is a very big domestic market, and domestic market has a huge potential of growth within the country, and I see some of this benefiting the garment manufacturing manufacturers in the country. Moving manufacturing facility to low-cost locations. Now that's something which I'm going to touch base upon as we go forward in the presentation. We're talking about largely as an opportunity where the apparel industry so far has been focused in the high-cost metropolitan cities. Now, metropolitan cities have a high COLA, cost of living allowance, and even though the minimum wage in a particular state would be X, the businesses are forced to pay higher to be able to attract and retain people. Now, how do you come out of this scenario? And we have already seen some fairly first steps happening with some of the people moving out of the bigger cities or high-cost cities into the lower-cost scenarios. And India, with its huge diversity and its huge land base, there is a fairly large potential there. Focus on product design and development. Now, India has typically been good on product design and development, but I think the larger focus and increased focus will ensure that we keep getting in the business and don't lose it out to somebody else. If we compare it to some of the other countries, I think we have a very strong point in design and development, and that's a very core area which India can develop even more. In terms of threats posed by cheaper manufacturing locations is definitely a threat. Bangladesh, for example, has been growing very, very big. And while most people say that there are a lot of negatives about Bangladesh in terms of, electricity not being available so much or gas shortages and kind of stuff, there are also a lot of positives. And the positives is that they've been able to reach a scale far better than, what Indian garment manufacturers have been able to do. If you look at the average size of the factory, and we had done this, estimation based on a small study, but in India, they're very difficult to find such factories. Reliability is still a big issue because if somebody is good on price, he's not good on delivery. If somebody is good on delivery, he's not good on quality. So an overall reliability where a retailer starts feeling that he's proud of working with a certain factory is an element which is still questionable in India. Increased labor attrition as a result of growth in other sectors, well, this is something that all of us live with. If you go to cities or clusters around Gurgaon, there are some of them which are working at 60 or 70% capacity because of labor shortages, and that's something which needs to be addressed. So what are the success factors for sustaining the apparel business in India? I think there are 4 key success factors, is how we have attributed it. First of all is the product strategy, which is need to build a strong strategy towards product right from design and development, and that is what I said in the previous segment, that this can be the big differentiator in terms of capabilities of harnessing the design and development process far better than what anybody else can do. And with already a tag of a destination for high fashion products, I think this is a big way to go. Scale up and show diversification of product base and become the market champions in high value added products. Again, almost similar. Strategy for market diversification, rebalance global economic order in Asia, Africa, Latin America, potentially huge markets. Look at better differentiated markets. Cashing in on the boom in the domestic apparel retail, which there are a lot of people who have already moved into domestic retail chains, and I have not been seeing it myself, but I have heard from people saying that the CMs that you get in domestic business is almost equivalent, if not higher, than what you get in the export business. The only issue sometimes is in the price or in the payment cycles. But I'm sure the domestic market itself is going through a cycle or a stage of improvement, and some of those issues will be resolved. Technological advancements, implementing technologies that would be state of art now. Most people feel that with smaller factories doing high value addition work, technology cannot be really adapted so much. Correct to an extent, but at any given point of time there are various options available even to the use of technology, and some of those can be adapted well even in smaller setups doing high value added businesses to improve the efficiency. Some of the processes can be improved. For example, I've discussed this in one of the next slides on how a small factory making high value added products can improve itself by use of better processes. In terms of building strong processes, process excellence, benchmark process capabilities, getting onto systems of lean manufacturing, reduced inventories, can all start improving the bottom lines. And being ethically right and being socially right. There are also customers and retailers who feel today that while India is all gung-ho about various, about the increase in economy and improvement in economy, there's still apparel manufacturing which is not completely ethically right. Now at one point of time, Sri Lanka came up with the entire, campaign of being an ethically correct country, and it was there. But India still gets into these questions of use of child labor, use of unethical practices, overtimes, and all of these things. While some of this would be a business requirement, but then, to be able to create an overall ethical environment which is right socially is something which is important for India. If you look at some of the key challenges which are faced by India, some of these have already been covered, so I'll quickly run through these. Manpower, which is a big issue. Labor in large cities is becoming scarce day by day. Migrated labor has a lot of issues themselves because in every festive season you're virtually void of people for a certain period of time. I remember I was with a factory in Okla and he said that during the Diwali time, we officially declare holidays for 10 days because even if we were to open the factory, we would still not be working because there would be no labor. And then to add to it, there is a very ad hoc skill build-up. Factories are still not based on industrial engineering practices and the training is not integrated to the needs of the requirement of the factory. So that's a challenge. In terms of profitability, staying cost competitive, considering the rising labor and raw material cost, is a very big challenge. The double-digit profit figures that people used to see about 5-6 years back have really come down to a single-digit figures, and that's alarming, and that's what also increases fears to people's mind. But at the same time, we should also look at the wastages that are happening in the overall process, and I think when the profitability goes down to a single digit, that's a time that's a wake-up call again. The business can still give you better margins, but there is so much wastage in the overall process which can be improved to regain that profitability. Increased labor costs in the cities is again a very big pitfall, needs to be addressed. Increasing duty-free import ceiling from Bangladesh will affect some of the domestic manufacturers, which has recently happened, and the SAFTA 48 categories have been allowed or extended for imports from Bangladesh. But I think that's again a small piece. The way the domestic market will grow in future, it will put pressure on some of these smaller players in India. But I think on large scale, it will give us an opportunity for them to grow better. Scale of modernization definitely required in India because I feel it's still one of the lowest in the world, and we should look at the promoters should look at improving the scale of business in apparel manufacturing. Leveraging technology, leveraging systems and processes which are better. Now, to address the challenges, there are basically three approaches. One is marketing, manufacturing, and business. If you look at the marketing approach, basically talks of end-to-end delivery concept to consumer, reaching out to new entire markets, focus on cost-effective products through product engineering, studying for future trends, predict consumption patterns. And I don't see marketing as too much of a challenge in India because there are still a lot of orders which are coming to India. The biggest issue is in terms of accepting those on the price points that a customer wants to give. And the biggest thing there is more internal rather than external, because if supplier A will not make it, I think supplier B will make it. But then how is supplier B better than supplier A is something which is an internal call, an internal discussion which has to happen, which basically leads us to manufacturing process. Now, manufacturing process which requires less people, less space, less movement, less inventory, and generates an overall cost-effective product is something which is the need of the day. Now, sounds very big words and sounds, all ideal scenario. Doesn't really happen like that. But the push has to be internal to improve from the current level, and even if that improvement comes by in small gaps of 10-20%, I think that's still a way forward because that's where the bottom line starts improving. Now, if you look at the small high-value garment suppliers, where the challenges are low order quantities, there are too many style changes, there are disjointed operations, there are too many back and forths in terms of the process itself, where it has to go out for embroidery, come back and then go for printing, or come back and then finally gets assembled. There is a low technology base because people feel it's not really relevant to use better technology in processes like this. And there is high value addition, which improves the complexity or which increases the complexity of the product. Now there are solutions. SMED, for example, is a lean tool, which reads single minute exchange of dyes, and it's a very process-driven tool which can improve style changeovers to a fairly large extent. And in one other case, we had implemented this in one factory where the average style changeover was close to about 540 minutes, and by using this, we could bring it down to about 180 minutes. So if the style changeover happens faster, so does your efficiency build up, and so does your entire performance of a particular style. Adequate training on the labor force in terms of the required skills for a particular style, and the training has to be planned. Training doesn't have to be ad hoc. It has to be planned for a particular style. So even if there are 10 style changes in a particular month or 20 style changes in a particular month, what is the requirement of training for or what is the level of expertise or skill that is required needs to be addressed. I think most of the exporters today or manufacturers today have the least focus there. Predefined SOPs for every operation and a cluster approach. Now, cluster approach is basically joining together. So if there is a lot of embroidery styles which happens in Okla, then why can't the people get together to make a common embroidery facility? I mean, again, it comes out of insecurities that somebody will pull my customer or somebody will take your customer. But eventually, a collaborative approach will ensure that your costs are lower. And while you still figure out, a non-compete, modus of operandi in a state like this. But that's something which has helped in some of the other parts of the world. Now, another important thing while we talk about is the rising cost and the decreasing labor in India. Now, if you look at the apparel clusters in India, the green ones are the existing large-scale garment units or garment clusters in India, which are 4 or 5. Ludhiana, Delhi, NCR, Chennai, Bangalore, and Tirupur. Now, Chennai also it isn't there so far, and maybe times to come, garment manufacturing will move out completely out of Chennai. Bangalore still remains and probably will remain for some more time. Although what's happening in Bangalore is a lot of the extended Bangalore is coming up. So whether it is Hindupur, which is in Andhra Pradesh, which is about 30 kilometers from the Bangalore airport, is becoming a very important center, or it is Hassan, or some of the other allied towns close to Bangalore, which are seeing a lot of impetus or a lot of investment in apparel manufacturing. The blue ones show the existing hubs on a smaller scale. So Jaipur, Indore, Vapi, Vizag, Hyderabad, Kolkata have been there. So there are some companies who are there, but not really come up as a cluster. And then, as we propose, or that could be, the other set of clusters, which are yet to come up. Now, on a very broad figure, what we had done a calculation. If we talk of the number of machines that are currently running in India at apparel trade of $11 billion, which then has to go to maybe about $27, $28 billion potential. There is one, an increased efficiency which has to happen on the current setups, and second is a new capacity which has to happen. So which means on a Tirupur kind of cluster, which might run close to about 20, 30,000 machines, you need probably 20 of those clusters more to happen in India in apparel manufacturing. Now, opportunity in terms of the customers is probably available, but what's not available is the will or the interest of the promoter to get to such large level of clusters. And we often debate this with various clients of ours on what is a cluster. Is a 100-acre park, can you call it a cluster? Actually, no, because a 100-acre park can only have an X amount of facilities in itself. A cluster is a second Ludhiana or a second Tirupur. And if that 50, 60,000 acres or maybe more of land were to be brought in together, and then the entire supply chain to be developed there, is something which will form a cluster. And that's where, the inherent growth will come in, where the customers will not have problems going and setting an office there, or maybe setting a whole QA team there, like what they do in Tirupur or Ludhiana. So that is something which is really required, and that scale of investment. And within that, it's not that one promoter has to set up the entire cluster, but there are numerous such people coming together and creating these large cities, mega cities in India is something which is really required. And if that was a challenge to find that cluster, and if the standalone garment manufacturing unit was still to improve its cost, something which people are doing by going to Bhiwadi, for example. Rajasthan is among the lowest minimum wage states in the country. And incidentally, I don't know if all of you know, Odisha is the lowest minimum wage state in India. followed by Rajasthan and followed by some of the other states. And Odisha, unfortunately, has not seen any industry in apparel manufacturing at all so far. Now, some part of Odisha is Maoist, is extremist driven, but there is also Odisha which is very fair, clean, and that can probably attract a lot of investment. There are a lot of people from Odisha who are migrating into Bangalore and Chennai in job of opportunities in apparel factories, but then we have not set up factories in Odisha. So that's an opportunity. Bhiwadi is an opportunity. Rajasthan is an opportunity. So all of these will help reduce the cost because the labor cost there is drastically low. The cost of living allowance in these cities is quite low as compared to some of the bigger cities. So opportunities to thrive through the tough times. One is the domestic market where India has a huge potential. Second is the current business scenario, which is increased labor rates, predominantly garment hubs in China is affecting cost-effective sourcing. Limited capabilities of Bangladesh. It will also it's already struggling on infrastructure, and I think Bangladesh will also get stagnated over a period of time. Ideal opportunity for India to cash in on the chance to become a leading garment exporter. Paradigm shift required is in the people, process, and technology. So the only sizable viable alternatives, one is captive or local rural manpower, modern training centers with well-structured training programs, an overall healthy factory environment with integrated social compliance approach, continuously learning and evolving manpower, process, and technology, implementing best practices and innovating new paradigms, state-of-art technology, robust and dependable machines, selective automation, high degree of employee participation in day-to-day administration of the factory. Thank you.